Dune 2. It's often called the first RTS game, and while that's not exactly true, it did help to define a genre going forward. Here we are over 20 years later, and real-time strategy really hasn't changed all that much. There have been attempted revamps throughout the years, some more successful than others, but it's no mistake that the most popular RTS game right now bears more than a passing resemblance to Dune 2. That's not a knock on that game, but more a testament to how revolutionary Westwood's game really was. In the early 90s, Virgin Interactive acquired the rights to make a game in the Dune universe, and they contracted with Cryo Interactive for development. Cryo began work on an adventure/strategy hybrid that, while based on the books, was heavily influenced by the 1984 movie of the same name. At some point during development, Virgin decided to cancel the game and began looking at other options. It was around this time that they ran into the little-known game called Herzog's Way. Herzog's Way was a Sega Genesis real-time strategy game that did better in Europe than it did in the United States. When they contacted Westwood about developing a game, Virgin asked them to take a look at Herzog's Way for ideas. Westwood went to work, taking inspiration not only from Herzog's Way, but also games like Civilization and Populous. But simply taking inspiration from other games was not enough for Westwood, and they quickly started experimenting with gameplay elements, unknowingly creating a style of game that would become a genre in itself. But they weren't the only developers creating a Dune, as Cryo Interactive's game was never officially cancelled. Now, with 2 Dune games in the works, games which would be released in the same year no less, Virgin Interactive needed to do something fast. What they chose to do could not have made Westwood Studios happy though. Virgin decided that Cryo Interactive's game, being the first in development, would be called Dune. Westwood's title would be renamed Dune 2, which has to be one of the first times that a game got a sequel before it was released, and certainly one of the only times that both games were superb. When Dune 2 launched in 1992, it had downright great graphics and incredible sound. Some of the gaming magazines of the time really gushed about how the game looked overall. The sad truth is that it has not held up quite as well as I had hoped in some respects. The music, on the other hand, composed on the Roland MT32 by Frank Klepacki, a man who has been credited on many soundtracks for many great games, still sounds fantastic to this day. It's fast-paced and often heart-pounding, especially when the music kicks in. While it's not CD quality, it's still better than most other games of its era, and it truly stands the test of time better than the graphics. Speaking of the graphics, the humans look like something that was done in paint, while the weapons that they're holding look even worse. Again, for the time they looked good, but they've aged particularly badly. The rest of the game fares a bit better though. The buildings look decent, having some shadows and including a few standouts such as the repair facility. The vehicles are easy to tell apart, but they are lacking in some detail. Oddly, the Harvester is one of the better looking vehicles. Its spice harvesting animation is really quite pretty. The terrain, on the other hand, is a disappointment. The sand looks good enough with windswept dunes on occasion and orange spice patches that disappear as you harvest them, but the rock that you build on looks rather terrible. It doesn't help that there's no elevation at all, no obstacles to move around, and certainly no trees. It all just feels extremely flat, with the layout of the rock being the only real differences between levels. Now I know that as a Dune game they couldn't exactly have a forest level, but there are ways of doing cliffs and varied landscapes in a desert environment, and I wish we would have seen some of that here. At launch, gameplay is one of the things that made Dune 2 stand out from the crowd, though nowadays it is a little behind. For its time it was brilliant, and it led to an explosion in the real-time strategy genre, spawning countless clones and countless fan sites throughout the years. In the game, you build a base, unlocking new structures as you build lower-tier structures. You build an army to defend your fledgling base, while harvesting resources that you need to allocate between defense, offense, and economy. In between levels, you get to choose one of 3 locations that you want to attack, but aside from the enemy you face, it doesn't really have much of an effect on the level. Of course, that could be from the fact that the levels are so similar anyway that you can't really tell them apart. The real problem with Dune 2 is the unit selection. You select units with the mouse, which is great and for the time was wonderful, but you can only select one unit at a time. This makes large-scale multi-stage attacks, if not impossible, at least a massive headache. Other smaller problems include very limited hotkeys, no context-sensitive commands, like you cannot select a unit and then right-click on an enemy to attack, a very simple AI that will always attack from the same direction no matter how well you fortify the area, and the odd problem where a unit's range of attack changes depending on the angle they have to their target. Still, there are some elements of Dune 2 that really nailed it, and a few that haven't been seen in many other RTS games still to this day. I absolutely love the desert environment, and by this I mean the necessity of building structures on rock, the sandworms that make traversing open areas dangerous, and the need to build on concrete slabs to slow down your structure's rate of decay. It all just adds to a sense of danger and a sense of place that many modern RTS games lack. Another great element is the minimap and Fog of War system. Now, don't get me wrong, many other games have implemented a minimap and a Fog of War, but in Dune 2, once you reveal an area, it stays revealed. I can't imagine any advanced race that can travel to stars, but can't make a radar that works if someone isn't already staring at that particular patch of ground you're trying to use it on. Lastly, there are 3 factions in the game, and while that sounds wonderful, they're really mostly the same. Other than their color though, there are a few differences, including the voices of your advisors. It's not much, but it does give each house a little more of a unique feel.
Affirmative.
Construction complete. Warning, enemy unit approaching from the south.
Warning, enemy unit approaching from the south.
Yes, sir. Moving out.
Warning, enemy unit approaching from the east.
In addition to the voices, each faction gets a handful of unique units such as the Harkonnen Devastator, the Atreides Sonic Tank, and the Ordos Deviator. That last one fires a nerve gas that has a chance of controlling enemy units for a short time and makes for some seriously hilarious counterattacks. Finally, once you build a palace, each faction gains access to one special ability. The Atreides can summon a free squad of Fremen, the Ordos can create a Saboteur, and the Harkonnen get the Death Hand missile, which is basically a nuclear weapon that, if you're unlucky, will take out your construction yard and spice refinery in one hit, necessitating a reload. Overall, there are many parts of Dune 2 that haven't aged particularly well, but it was such a well-designed game that even after all this time, the genre really hasn't advanced very much. Dune 2 may have been the game that defined what RTS games would be, but do I think it holds up today? Absolutely I do. Dune 2 is one of the most important real-time strategy games of all time, and it has already gone down in history as such. Westwood truly created something special here, and if you haven't yet, I implore you to try it at least once. If you like this video, then please hit the like button, and if you disagree with my view of the game, or you have some corrections to mistakes you feel I've made, then just leave them in the comments down below. Subscribe to our channel for more amazing content, including the next game in our series, Warcraft: Orcs and Humans by Blizzard Entertainment. Finally, make sure to check out Twinstiq.com for all of your gaming news, reviews, and editorials.
Enemy structure destroyed. Your mission is complete.